If ye seek, ye shall find. Because no mystery is closed to an open mind. We keep you up to date so you can decide your own fate. Welcome to Maxim Axiom Radio. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Maxim Axiom Radio. I'm your host, Roger Sylver. Today, we have a return guest to the show, and that guest is none other than Mary Rodwell, founder and principal of the Australian Close Encounter Resource Network, ACERN, where she utilizes her skill set as a professional counselor, hypnotherapist, metaphysician, researcher, and ufologist in preparing the hearts and minds of the human species to accept reality as much larger than their everyday routine. These realities being the presence of otherworlders that many call extraterrestrials living alongside and all around us upon this planet. They are here to enlighten everyday humanity to the greater realities that coexist alongside ours, assisting us in our communications with them, which will ultimately lead us up to our collective and individual understanding of our place in and amongst the vast multiverse. And with that, welcome back, Mary, and thank you for being with us again on Maxim Axiom Radio. And it was a year ago yesterday. It's been a year and a day since we last spoke. What do you think of that?
Oh, it's great to be back, Roger. I can't believe the time's gone so quickly.
Yeah, it has gone very quickly, and a lot has happened within the last year. It has. What has been, taking place in Mary's world, with you and your work over the last year so far?
Well, it's just accelerated more than anything else. I've actually put out to the universe I could do with a couple of Mary clones, Mary 1 and 2, so that they could actually take some of the load off, because it's become quite incredibly busy, even more so than it was last year. And as you know, Roger, this to me is just indicating what we already know, that everything's accelerating, including people waking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like we have a friend of ours by the name of Katie Galante, and she was saying on my Facebook page a few days ago that it's like her guides were telling her we were being held back, but another precog friend of ours, she was saying that we are getting ready to get slingshotted out because those that are working for the dark side of things were holding things back, but we're going to be catapulted forward, and apparently we're in that right now. We are being released from the slingshot, especially with Mercury going direct just a few days ago. Now, I got to let folks know just quickly, Mary and I had this show set up for last week, all right? And unfortunately, just kind of a herpty-derp, if you will, I scheduled the interview to be for, what was it? It was the 11th of June. Unfortunately, that was the last day of Mercury being stationary, and these forces will work overtime at times, that things are reversed to make sure they put you several steps backward. And it's been one hell of a month for this guy, computer issues, the whole 9 yards. But Mary and I were supposed to hook up, and unfortunately, it didn't happen because we were blocked on Skype from getting in touch with one another. But now, we have the communication gods working in our favor to bring this show to you today, folks. Now, Mary, Lady Lahila and I viewed your recent video at home with Mary Rodwell, recorded by Peter Maxwell Slattery, and it was great. We loved it, and we still want to come down there and visit you. We do. It was great. But what other things are going on with you right now? Yeah, you're going to be in the UK in October sometime, right?
Well, I hadn't planned on going overseas this year, but when I had connected with a lady, beautiful lady, Pia Knudsen in Exopolitics Denmark in Copenhagen, I met her last year and we really connected. And she said, would you come to Denmark sometime? But as it came out of the blue that it was going to be this year. And I said, well, in that case, thinking about it, I thought, well, I've got some connections in Stockholm, so it would give me an opportunity to connect with them. So I agreed. So I'm doing Denmark to start with. And about a week and a half later in Norway, they're having a conference. And this lady scientist in Stockholm, of course, we've been corresponding for a number of years. And she's coming out this year. She's actually going to say who she is. She's going to not only talk about her experiences, but how, her interactions with various of the visitors have changed her life and if you like, directed her science and her understanding of certain things to do with loading water or energizing water. And she feels she's being really pushed to say who she is. So I had been talking about the scientist before at the Nexus conference, and I'd mentioned her understanding of the letter people, which is ADHDs, those with Asperger's, stroke, dyslexia, and also certain types of autism as being new programs for the new human. And she has a real understanding of that because she's one herself. And she explains how she's managed with that, with that higher functioning through certain, diet and certain minerals and vitamins, but also explaining that she understands why their new programs are not broken genes as that, many of them are trying to say there's something wrong with individuals.
Right.
But she's saying they're actually offering a new multidimensional skills to prevent limited reprogramming of a third dimensional reality. So she's saying it's not as simple as foreign DNA, but it's a combination of genetically improved bodies in combination with souls from different places in our universe, incarnating in these improved bodies. And the souls have different frequencies, vibrations, depending on their evolutionary status. And this plays a role in activation of the DNA in that particular body. And she says we also have to take into account the collective soul of Homo sapiens. So in other words, she has her own experience of this, saying she's got more sensitivities to touch, to smell, a whole range of heightened senses due to the fact she's one of these new programs, and the children are these new programs as well. And in fact, that's really where my focus has been more and more, is with the children. And some of the information that I'm getting from families with these children is quite astounding, because many of them have conscious recall of their past lives. They've got conscious recall of why they've come to this planet. And they also, many of them have an awareness of a new kind of physics, which, as one young 9-year-old told me, that he comes from Orion, and explained to me that his job was dealing with time travel technologies, and he actually works with he's a light physicist. In other words, he works with light as a physicist. And he said, unfortunately, the only kind of awareness in terms of physics on this planet he described was the nearest to it was Tesla. He said, no, none of those on this planet, as far as he knows, none of the scientists that work in that field have any idea of the physics that he understands. And so he said, it's like you're continually reinventing the wheel on this planet, because, his kind of physics is way beyond that. And his problem is, connecting with someone that will understand the concepts as he understands them.
Understood. Now, it's also been said that Tesla himself was an actual, he was one of these beings who came from another world to give this planet a gift, and unfortunately it was a little too early and they wanted to monopolize on it, right? He was all about pulling electricity from the actual air around us and transmitting it wirelessly, what have you, and he was just way beyond his time. We could really deal with him right now, and hopefully he is possibly reincarnated somewhere on this planet right now. What changes have you seen, if any, over the last year regarding any information that you've been receiving via your clients and and or any changes that you felt or noticed as of late?
Yes, I mean, the problem I find now, Roger, is I'm getting so much information. It's really hard to get it out there in the way that I would like to. So part of my project this year is writing my second book, which is about the children and what they're saying, including the teenagers, and putting as much information in there as I possibly can to show how much these new children are bringing in the new information and the new awareness and the new paradigm. Some of it is going to be very confronting for a lot of people because they're going to have to accept. I know that it won't be so much for yourself, but they have to accept how much we have been kept down from rising to those higher frequencies and that higher awareness through a lot of different things. And when you have a 9-year-old talking about how he'd been targeted and talks about being in a room which was a base where there was what seemed to be some military personnel, where they were using this technology to try and bring down his frequency so he would actually share more of his information. And he was very aware that it was happening, that they were trying to control his mind and control the frequencies of his mind. He did say that, they also can use it to put information into your head and confuse you. And this is what they're doing with a lot of people that are sensitive and who they feel have information, like a lot of the star kids. And he also talked about some of these star kids being trained in bases under the water, also obviously on land as well. And he talked about also some of them going to off-planet, off-world, to both the moon and Mars and being trained there. And he said because they know that we have this information, we have information from where we come from, and a lot of that is the information that they're training and using for some future purpose. And he was very aware of that. And he said, but it's not for a positive purpose. He talks about an artificial intelligence. He talks about how mind control technologies are on the moon, on Mars, and lead back to Orion as one base. But he also talks about the fact that there are some like him that are aware of it and are doing their very best not to be pulled in to it. But it is very dark. And when you have a 9-year-old explaining this to you, it's very hard to dismiss information from children that is as complex and as detailed with such profound understanding. Because as I've always said, they don't read books on this, they don't watch talk shows. And I'm very aware with this young man, as with many parents, they don't front load the kids. In fact, it comes as a major surprise to them when their children come out with this kind of information. But, this is what we hear from many adults who have been part of these programs, that they are trained in underground bases to do some what we would see is supernormal powers, extraordinary things with their capabilities. And these children know that they have these abilities.
Indeed, and I have to say that I was one of those children. In our last show we did last year, I mentioned that they used to come and get me when I was a toddler, and I can remember them communicating with me telepathically, and telling me don't be afraid and things of that sort. And it's just like, well, okay, I can hear you, but I can't see you, and or you're controlling what I'm seeing. But they had been plaguing me since I was a toddler. And in 1996, I finally stood my ground, and I don't remember having many negative experiences since then in all actuality. But in 1996, I remember they were coming through my wall. And, well, what happened is there was a 17-year-old sitting on the floor, rocking herself back and forth, and sitting Indian style on the floor in my bedroom, sitting in front of my entertainment center. And I looked at her because I felt like this sleep paralysis coming over me, but I was fighting tooth and nail against it. And I looked at her and I said, "How old are you?" While she was rocking on the floor, she looked up at me and she said, 17. Now all of a sudden, poof, she was gone. Next thing I know is like, all right, I'm getting the hell out of here. So I got up, put on my, my warrior garb, which, back then I was an urban mountain bike rider in the city of Phoenix. And I threw everything on, getting ready to go, and I heard this metallic-y, it was a very metallic voice in my head say, and it was very androgynous. It didn't have a gender, saying, "Roger, where the hell do you think you're going?" And I said, "The F away from you and whatever you people are. Leave me alone." And they came right back immediately, and they said, "Do you think that you can actually hide from us? We can track a fly anywhere on this planet." At that time, I noticed underneath the bedroom door, there was a very strange neon pink green light emanating from underneath the door. And from there, I turned around and I just kind of kneeled a bit, crouched down with the mountain bike tire against my back, leaning back up against this weight bench that I had for bench pressing, right? And all of a sudden, I look at my wall. I'm looking west. It's a cinder block wall. The entire house was made of cinder block. And all of a sudden, I see the bottom half undulating, if you will. And it was not undulating to where it was a straight line across the wall under the window. It was like a wavy line, kind of like what am I looking for? An analog wave, right? Sound wave. That's what it looked like. And it was kind of like a mess, but they were phase shifting the matter. Next thing I know, I see these beings walking through, and they were 3 to 4 foot high, and they came, grabbed both my arms on either side, and that's all I remember after that. I know I was taken through there, but to where and used for what, I have no damned clue. So there are, and Arizona is the Southwest in America is very huge for all sorts of happenings like this, because I don't think they can really take the humidity and or the colder temps, in all honesty, whatever these EBEs are. But I can say that since 96, I've had more benevolent happenings going on rather than malevolent. Last summer, as a matter of fact, Law and I walked outside and we looked up in the sky, and right above us, right, it was nighttime, beautiful out. And I looked up, and being my tinker self, as Law calls me. She calls me her King Tink, I guess. So anyway, I look up at the sky and I said, "All right, Law and I are both standing here. How you doing? Can you do us a favor?" I said, "Can you show up for us and maybe just let us know you're there?" And I'm looking up and I said, "Well, we both have our glasses on and we're looking up at the same spot. Go ahead, do something." But it was very quiet, right? Because like I said, it feels like when you're outside past 9 p.m. here, it is, it's like you're breaking a curfew, right? You shouldn't be outside because, there are terrible things in the dark, yada, yada. But anyway, we looked up and all of a sudden, Mary, from the northwest corner of our house, there was a ship. It flew slow enough to where we could see that it was in fact a ship, but it flew fast enough to where it might have been just some sort of streak in someone's peripheral vision, and they would have just passed it off. But we looked at it straight on. They were right there above our heads. Well, the next day we wake up and we get a message from a friend of ours in Leeds who is into checking out and monitoring what planes are coming into this country, what planes are leaving this area. And there were 2 military fighter jets circling over the top of us. He goes, "What the hell happened up there by you guys last night?" And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Check this link out quick. They're still circling around that area right over the top of us here." And I looked and I'm like, well, look at that. And all of a sudden, boom, they both disappeared. Their transponders or something were turned off as they were doing their scout mission up here. So they knew that whoever those people were up there. But I'm like, wow, I sat and I laughed like a little boy, right? Law's giggling. And I'm like, being cheeky. "Well, can you turn around and come back?" And they're like, "No, we showed you enough there, guy, just know that we're here." So who they are, I don't know. But this ship was circular. We were seeing the underside of it. And when they decloaked enough to where we could see the bottom of it, but it was glowing like it was not a bright burnt orange, but it was a burnt orange nonetheless. And it streaked right over the top of us. It was right over the top of our house, right where we were. I didn't think they were going to show up and show us anything, but I was just like, oh my God, there they are. Who were piloting it, excuse me, I have no clue. I don't know if they were humanoid, if they were the red-skinned beings that I spoke of in the last show we did. I have no clue, but I just know that we're being monitored by all sides right now.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of that. I don't think people realize, that the latest stats on people seeing craft is 1 every 6 minutes around the globe. Somebody's, videoing or seeing a craft. I suspect it's even more than that. They're everywhere, and they're showing up particularly to people who they feel are ready to see them. And, not only ready to see them, but those that have had some kind of experience. And that there are many people now who say, I'll just get this urge to go outside, and there it is. There's a craft there. It's almost like they're saying, come and have a look. We're out here.
Yes.
It's very much the way it's going.
Yeah, I had that happen, as a matter of fact, and I just remembered now I was supposed to send you some pictures that I posted on Facebook. Now, this happened in 2012. And I was still residing in Wisconsin at that time. And I had just finished having some lunch, and I was washing my dishes. The kitchen sink, the way I was standing, I was facing straight due north. And all of a sudden I felt this pulling, like they tug on my aura on the left side. And I just kind of mumbled, yeah, I know you're out there. I'll be out there in a minute. Not even thinking about what the hell I was saying. So my roommates were getting ready to walk out the door, and I went into my room, grabbed a cigarette, and I walked out onto the front porch, lit it, and I happened to look up, and there were 3 huge clouds with 3 or 4 underneath them in straight lines in like a formation. All right. And I'll have to send you these, the close-ups and everything. But they didn't take them off of Fedbook. Let's put it that way. That's what I call Facebook. So anyway, because it is. It's totally alphabet soup book, So anyway, I'm like, oh, wow. All right, so you are here. I said, do me a favor. Just hang out a second. I'm going to go grab my camera. And I'll be right back out if you wouldn't mind me taking some pictures. Well, they let me take pictures on an old Sony CyberShot that I have, and it still works after all these years. And so I run back in the bedroom, and I throw the batteries in, turn it on, and the internal battery was shot. It was dead. So I had to reset the entire date and everything, and I'm grumbling to myself, and I heard them laughing. Like, yeah, we're still here, and I'm like, so I ran outside, and there they were still. But one of the 3 on my left, its right, one of the 3 of the larger ones, one of them decided to break down, and they turned into 4 little ones all in a row across the bottom, and then there were 2 on top. There were a few other things going on with some anomalies around these other clouds, these 4 that were there. So it just felt like, well, I couldn't make out if it was one bigger craft or if it were several smaller ones. All right. But whomever they were like in a military formation right there. I still don't know exactly the significance or the message that they were trying to give to me, but I know they were there, and they let me take pictures of them. Now, when this happened in spring, it was daytime. It was probably about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And there was no wind blowing outside. No wind. There were no animals. There were no birds making a noise. You could have heard a pin drop on the sand that was outside. That was what we called our front yard, if you will. It was all sand, and you could have heard a pin drop out there. It was so darn quiet, Mary. But I'm still trying to figure out who they are, what's going on, what the hell my place is in all this. But I do know that doing this radio thing, it's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I've had new equipment come to me in the last year, actually just recently, to be doing this show. And, I have a voiceover business as well. But the thing is I feel like I'm supposed to be giving a platform for people down here to come forward to give their messages. You know what I mean? And sometimes I will share a little bit about what I've been through because, I'm obviously doing this for a reason. I'm not having fits of delusions of grandeur or anything like that. I am just following my heart and my intuition, right? I mean, you're a fellow, well, I should say a sister Aries yourself. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. What do you feel about any of that? What is your first inclination, your intuition telling you about those clouds that appeared in front of me?
Oh, look, I think that when they feel you're ready, more and more they're stepping up their presence. And part of it is showing themselves, showing the craft. And as you become more familiar and more comfortable, you said that when you went outside that everything was very still and unusually still, and that high strangeness that some people feel when they see a craft. Sometimes, there'll be an unexplained fog around, for example, which is also can be their beginning of an encounter. What I do say to people that have had a sighting like yourself is often there's a lot more happened than they realize. There's often downloading of information or there's an interaction. And they may not recall it. They may just think, they went out and they saw this interesting object or whatever. But I will say to them, did you feel differently afterwards in some way? And they often will say to me, yes, I did. And that usually means there's been more going on than what they can consciously recall. And often in hypnosis, you'll discover that often they've been picked up because we know that they can stretch time, they can manipulate time so that what you think is a few minutes may actually have been a great deal longer than that. And what they're doing, I absolutely believe, is just getting us desensitized to the reality. And more that we accept that and we accept what we're seeing, the more they will make that more conscious. And I think this is where we're headed now, is into a lot, a more conscious contact with the visitors. And the ones that we're particularly drawn to are usually the ones that are particularly significant, obviously. So if you feel, you're saying you're not always quite sure who they are and whatever, I'm sure on some level, if you went into a quiet space and just asked that question, you may very well get a sense of who they are and why you're drawn to maybe a particular even star system. Because it's, there is a part of us that does know, and it's just a matter of asking the question and listening to that resonance, listening to that intuition, which we all have. Some people say, I don't know, I've been drawn to a particular star system, never known why. And I said, well, I think I know why. The reason you're drawn to it is because on some level there's a familiarity or a resonance to that particular star system that is relevant to you. It's like past lives. When people say to me, there are particular, I don't have a conscious memory particularly of a past life, but I've always been drawn to China. And, and I'll say to them, is there any particular period in China that you're interested in? And they'll say, oh, it might have been the what's name dynasty or whatever. I said, well, that in itself is telling you something. It's just that we are programmed out of trusting that sense that we may have or that intuition that is actually giving us information if we only listen to it. But so many people struggle with trusting that due to the programming that we have, that unless it's solid and we can touch, feel, see and smell it, it's not real. Where in fact, we've got a multidimensional sense that is giving us huge amounts of information. The only thing is, the hardest thing is trusting it because of the way that we're taught not to trust anything unless we can logically analyze it and see it in the way that we are told is reality, when in fact it's a load of rubbish, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Because
it is. It's total rubbish because they're forcing you to keep your vibration low, your frequency low, by the way, that's what Tesla spoke about. They're paying attention to particles, which is also bollocks, right? If they started focusing on frequency and vibration and putting that out there to people, which they don't want to do because they're actually using that to manipulate people. If people start paying attention to frequency and vibration, then, they would be on the correct track, because what is it that's holding all those molecules together, right? Now, I was going to say, as far as the star system that Lady Lahila and I are both pulled to, it would be the Pleiades. I remember back in the 80s just looking up in the sky, and it's like the most fuzzy with my eyesight, right? Looking up at the sky going, wow, why am I so pulled to you, And especially with what we're dealing with today. I was 15 years old, walking to work, and I was walking underneath the underpass. I had worked at a restaurant that was just right off the highway, right next to the off-ramp. And I was prepared. I don't know. I was just like, I said, I was watching all these millibouts just going about their daily business like ants, is what it came to me, like ants scurrying around doing their thing. And I just said out loud to myself, as I was walking underneath the underpass, I said, you people have no effing idea what is coming. And it's here today. It's happening now. But I didn't even know exactly what was coming. But there's a lot going on right now. And I'm just, when it's all said and done, I'm really hoping that everything works out for the better down here, because there's this supposed prime directive to where these benevolent beings cannot get involved unless they're asked to be involved, supposedly. And if there is enough people out there, if there are enough people out there to ask for this assistance, then they can actually come in and assist. And I do feel that's what's happening now. But unfortunately, the darker energies on this planet have damn near just as much technology as as those who are here to assist humanity to evolve into what we are supposed to be and what we were supposed to be from the very beginning, and very well what we could have been in the very distant past. What do you say about that?
Oh, I think certainly we've been in this place before, and when you get the children telling you the same thing, saying this is the third time, one of them told me, who's under 10, that this is the third time we've reached this level of evolution. But what makes me very hopeful, and I really believe logically this makes sense, is that there are so many of these wonderful new souls coming in to help this planet this time. And I feel that it would be illogical for them to come in to help the planet if in fact it was for a waste of time. Because they will know what the outcome is anyway from their awareness. So
right.
To come in with those abilities, they must come in knowing that this time it's going to work and it's going to happen. And with the technology, certainly we've got, people don't realize that with the reverse engineered, the technologies that we have just a minuscule that is put out there for us in the public to use, where they are many years ahead of us, certainly in the military.
Yeah.
Some say 30 years or more, but we also know there's intelligences out there that have thousands of years of advanced technology. As this young boy told me, he's a light physicist, creating out of light. Now, we have got nothing on this planet anywhere near anything like that, as far as I'm aware, anyway. So they're coming in with these technologies, they're coming with this understanding. And that in itself, you will say, what's the point if we can't understand because it's so in advance? But we've got those like this young boy that are also getting these downloads. They may not be recognized in traditional terms as physicists, with their PhDs at universities, which he said is, they're just reinventing the wheel. But they're individuals that have come in with that mandate, with that understanding that I believe will help one another to utilize this kind of technology. And many of them are, teenagers. I was speaking to a 17-year-old that told me he's come in as an ambassador from Arcturus and said that his work here is as an ecological engineer, that to create a new ecology around, having habitats. So everything, in fact, is in balance. And this is part of his role, or his mission to this planet. This is what he'll be doing in a completely different way to the way we understand it, because, everything from a dimensional level or a multidimensional level will be taken into account, nothing like what we understand at this moment in time. So, this is may sound like science fiction to a lot of people, but what I'm hearing is that this is an understanding of a huge shift in understanding our potential as humans. And as the 9-year-old from Northern Europe, a young girl, told me, that human beings have no idea how incredibly amazing they are, but at the moment they don't believe it. So in fact, we're our own worst enemy because we don't understand yet our potential. But I think this is what is going to be, if you like, the part of the shift in consciousness, where we are going to understand our potential. And this whole business of perhaps being switched on, whichever way you look at that, or being made aware of our potential as this shift in consciousness happens.
Agreed, and indeed. When people do not recognize the magic within themselves, they're not going to see it reflected back to them, right, from outside themselves, in essence. But what do you feel that there are catalysts taking place right now, such as these otherworlders showing up, making themselves visible to people to assist in, jump-starting that, whatever it is, for people to recognize just how special every individual truly is on this planet?
I think the children are the key, because many of them talk about their acting as triggers to wake other people up. Okay. And some of them are very aware that their information, I think the triggers are, there's multitudes of triggers, as I know you know, Roger, everything from what we're seeing holographically, the crop circles, the frequencies hitting this planet at the moment, for example, the star languages, the scripts, even the artwork and the music. Yeah. You look at some of the incredible children now, sometimes as young as 9 and 10 on the world stage. You see them in these talent shows, and you can actually, you see it in the way that they sing, that they are completely different to, a few generations ago. They have a confidence, they have an awareness, they have a strength in their ability to sing. I believe that, they're bringing in the frequencies through that, and that, they are just amazing. You see these 9, 10-year-olds, and they're singing like mature soloists, and yet they're 9 and 10 years old. This is, you just have to see it on the talent shows, and you can say, to me, they're all the star kids, and they're bringing in the frequencies through music, whereas others are bringing it through art, others are bringing it through the languages or the scripts, or the amazing, there are frequencies coming in from literally all levels, and even with the information. I mean, you say that you are doing a radio show, which is part of your mission. With that, you may be perhaps amazed that the mere fact that you're creating that and doing that in itself is a trigger for people, right. Even though we may not understand on every level, even with the frequencies coming through by doing these particular interviews and what have you, is bringing in all the frequencies as well. So you're doing perhaps a lot more than even you have been realizing, right, by doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And there is, the children, they are coming out en masse, and just, they are wonderful prodigies. I'm trying to remember the name of this lad. He's 10 or 11 years old, and he is a jazz artist, a total prodigy, piano player. And he is very well versed at just listening to the bass and the drums. stand-up bass they were playing, right? And the drummer, just beating the skins, and he is playing to match what they're playing, and they don't have any music in front of them, and this kid he's exceptional. And I'll have to try to find that video and email it to you. Do you have a Facebook account, by the way?
I do now. I'm still getting used to it, as you say, with reluctance, but it is primarily for, information, obviously.
Right.
That is the main reason that I'm doing it. Any way to get the information out there, and that is its main role, which has been useful. I think you can use it if you're wise in how you use these social media. And that for me is just another way of giving people information, which is, just getting the information out there.
Very good. Can you give us that Facebook name and or address? Is it under just Mary Rodwell?
Yeah, I will. I'll give that. I'll send you all of that at the end of the show, so that you've got that.
All right.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. I've been totally looking for you, and I'm like, Mary, get on FedBook. Come on, it's fun, really.
It's not under Mary Rodwell. It's actually under the ACERN banner. So because
understood.
Yes, but I'll send you all of that. That's not a problem.
Okay, very good, very good. I will look for you immediately after we're finished with the show today. So, all right, now let's get on with another question here. Do you feel that the planet and her peoples, and I guess we were just speaking about this, do you feel that the planet and her peoples as a whole are on a more positive timeline for exciting and new changes coming about?
Certainly that seems to be information coming to me from various individuals around the globe, that that nothing will stop this shift, that no matter what happens or how it's tried to be shut down, if you like, that really we are on a positive timeline, and the next couple of years are crucial for everything to shift and change. And some are talking about some major shifts at the end of the year and some next year as well. What's interesting for me is when the children also talk about, these kinds of dates as well. And one young lady was saying that, the major shifting going on in humanity was between 2012 and 2017. So we've only got another couple of years, but many others have also mentioned those kinds of dates. So I do put a lot of I do take seriously when I get enough people saying similar things, then I often, I believe that gives it a lot of veracity. And certainly what I'm seeing is the reason, we're noticing that a lot of corruption is now being made public.
Yes.
That, there's a lot of that is the start of, everything unfolding, and for people to see how much they've been lied to, and how much on the planet is wrong and is corrupt. And you don't really need to be that that bright to get it. It's everywhere now, and people are becoming very disillusioned as well. They're no longer just taking things how they used to a few years ago. Now people are questioning. So there's a huge shift in public awareness, and I think whether you're ready to see that for yourself or not, that in itself is a great indicator that people are waking up. And I think they're waking up in a way that is really quite profound. And what's interesting to me is the whole range of the social hierarchy of people waking up, right from we're getting housewives and farmers and the children, but we're also getting the professionals, the academics, and many of them now admitting that this is part of their experience, whether they're a lawyer or a doctor or a physicist. The scientists are coming out and saying this. Those within psychology, I get emails from those within the psychological field, clinical psychologists that are saying, look, my whole family is having experiences. And it's really hard for them because they're in a position where they feel obliged to go along with the present limited psychological model, but at the same time knowing it doesn't fit anymore because it doesn't fit for them. And this is the big dilemma for professionals, is that they're knowing so much more than what they're being taught and programmed into believing. And, that causes an enormous amount of conflict.
Yes, it does, especially right now. Here in the UK, I do not know if you're familiar with this gentleman. His name is Sacha Stone. I interviewed him a month or two ago, and he and his colleagues, friends and colleagues, have put together, and this is an international group. He has put together these people, thousands of people actually wanting to be a part of this new movement called the ITNJ, the International. Oh geez, I just went blank for natural justice. Oh my God, I hate it when I do this. The International. Oh my God, I hate it when I do this. But anyway, the ITNJ. Look it up, folks. And it is all about how. Well, it's about people understanding who and what they are as sentient, self-responsible beings, right? Exercising their sentient self-responsibility through just their being, their sentientness, to own their own power. Now, these folks are working to wake people up into this, but they're also going to go, if they're not already doing so, going toe-to-toe against the current power structure on this planet. All right. Now, this group is made up of folks from Canada, if I remember correctly, the US, and the UK over here. Magistrates, scientists, all sorts of people over here in the UK, former tax attorneys, former tax agents. They're all basically waking up after 30 to 40 years of servitude to their masters to like, what the hell have we been doing? What is going on? What is the shift? We are seeing everything becoming transparent, if you will. The International Tribunal for Natural Justice. It just popped into my head. Excuse me, folks. So we are seeing all of this come out right now. And it's like, okay, what are people going to do with the information coming out on the pedophilia, just the evil sliminess that has been this planet over the last several thousand years? What do they do with that information?
It's huge, and I think it takes a while for people to actually believe that this has been going on. Just as I know you and I have been on this journey for quite a lot of years, we've come to terms with the fact that everything we're told generally in the news and and from politics right through to religion has been manipulated, so that the truth there is very hard to find and read between the lines, because everything else has been so badly manipulated, and we have been manipulated, and for many, many hundreds of years. So it takes a bit of getting used to think, what do you believe? What is the truth? All those kinds of things that we all seek ultimately to understand our lives. And it is going to be very hard for a lot of people initially to start again and say, I've got to start again to understand, who I am and what's really going on this planet, and the fact that we've all been misled on all these different levels as well. But it is wonderful that we're now getting those that are challenging the systems, and it's all coming out. And I think we're that's the tip of the iceberg. We've got so much more that's going to happen. And one of the things that is wonderful in the organization, apart from ACERN, is the new organization of FREE that I am now one of the directors, which is the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. We have Dr. Edgar Mitchell now. He's become the figurehead for that.
Really?
So here is an astronaut. Yes, it's only just been restructured, and he's accepted the role as the name, that we can actually use his name, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. So here is an astronaut that is saying this is real, and that we are actually going to now research this from all those levels. In other words, giving the stamp of credibility to something we all know is real, but has never been fully acknowledged. We've got Dr. Rudy Shield, who's the astrophysicist at Harvard University, who's going to be the director of the science physics side of this. Right. We have got two psychology professors, Dr. Klimo and Dr. Sprinkle, looking into the academic research to this whole experience. And also now looking at supporting the experiencer, but also doing the research required to actually validate and give this whole phenomena the credibility it deserves, because we are not told what the covert agencies and covert governments know about this. None of that is being made available to us, only that the fact is that we know, and I mean, I've worked with over 3,000 experiencers. Goodness knows how many millions are out there that are having encounters and don't understand what it is and are still thinking maybe they're going crazy. This is the biggest, worst damage that could be done to the human psyche, is to have your reality dismissed or perceived as craziness or paranoia or schizophrenia, when all you're doing is actually operating in your full capacity as a multidimensional being. And this is to me the biggest crime against humanity, that so many of them have been medicated and end up hospitalized for basically being more aware than those that are not so fully awake. That is, to me, is the most criminal of all.
Well, yeah, and well, that on top of them knowing that these higher frequency beings, sentient beings, are incarnating on the planet right now, to where as soon as they're born, they are hit with a barrage of autistic causing vaccinations. They're forcing parents to vaccinate their children, and if they don't, being threatened with the state taking them. All right. So it is a war, folks, that we are in right now, and it is happening behind the scenes, but it's also happening right now in front of everyone's faces. It's right out in front of you, people. What are you going to do about the information coming out? Because, in this day and age of information on this planet, ignorance is most definitely a choice. And if you choose to stay ignorant, you better be ready to deal with the repercussions, the reactions to your non-action, I guess. Because in all honesty, you're really being a part of the problems down here. And I have to say this because it's just been grinding on me, and it has been for quite some time. I'm here to assist with Mary and many others, folks, to wake people up to their individual, it's exercising the change you wish to see on the planet through, exercising your sentient self-responsibility and stepping up to the plate to be responsible individuals, all right, to assist in taking this planet and her peoples to where it should have been going for so long already. We should be there. I have seen what this place can look like, Mary. I actually dreamt I was walking along this dirt road, and I was heading north by northeast, and as I'm coming up around this dirt road, and it was very sandy, like beach sandy, all of a sudden I started shifting into this other reality on this planet, all right, this other reality. There are ships flying back and forth, interstellar travel, doing business, communicating with other worlders. I have seen a female whose skin was silver. I saw her in this beautiful dress and everything. She looked at me and smiled as I was walking by, and I'm just like, wow, I'm home again, and I just wept. And I'm like, my God, seeing what this planet could be compared to what it is right now, for me, is very disheartening, but I'm still pushing on. I know that things will change. We're seeing them change within our lifetime. Speaking of which, what do you see happening, after 2017, when we've hit this apex and we're coming out the other side of this apex, really, of people waking up and being the change they wish to see? How soon do you feel we're going to be interacting with other worlders out in the open rather than, them just kind of like visiting individuals on the planet? When is this going to happen?
I don't know, but I do know a lot of people have had dreams, precognitive dreams, where they've seen the ships coming in. some of them seem to suggest that for a time, some of us will be picked up until the planet's sorted out, and then brought back again. This is what a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old described, although a 4-year-old had drawn this planet and a script, and her mother said, "What is the planet and what is the script?" And she said, "Oh, that's the new Earth." And her mother said, "Can you tell me more about it?" She said, "No, because it's a secret." Yeah. So she was explaining that there is something still, and I'm not sure how it's all going to happen. I don't think anybody actually knows. Everyone's aware that something is going to happen. There is something sooner rather than later. And that some people have this real sense of anticipation, not fear actually, but anticipation, right, that this is, has to happen. Some just see it as a shift in consciousness. Some see it as, lots of earth changes, whether or not craft are coming and assisting us by picking, people up or whatever, I don't know. But the other thing that I believe is going on is that we will be able to access our full potential. And, I go back to the logic of the fact that we only use 1/10 of our brain. We only use 90 to just over, I think we're switched off we only use about 8 to 10% of our DNA. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what the rest is for. Right. Now, to me, that's illogical in nature, that we are not accessing our full potential. So what is that? And many believe, and it suggests to me that if that is the rest of our potential that is hidden there, and if we become awakened, if you like, or we have that shift, whatever that takes, whether it's certain frequencies, certain recognitions of those frequencies and triggers, and that we get woken up. I think there's a great movie, I think it's called Lucy, that's, I don't know whether you've seen it, yes, where she gets more and more of her DNA switched on, and she becomes more and more multidimensionally aware to the point where she can even become light. Well, I think that's very interesting, because I wonder whether we're being shown through, as we are with many of the movies, that is where we could go and be, that we could be like that we could, the X-Men and all those other things. But I think it's going to be even more than that. My sense is that we will be incredible beings. And this is what has been, this is what they're afraid of, is that if we reach that point, whatever they try and do will be immaterial, because it won't matter, because there'll be no way once we reach a certain frequency that they can tap into us. And as this 9-year-old told me when he was experiencing them trying to pull down his frequency with what he called these mind control equipment, that he could, when he focused, keep his frequency that bit higher, and they couldn't reach him. And this is what I think we're being tasked to do at the moment, is to, hang on to that higher frequency, because when we're in the fear frequency, we're in this which is everywhere, fearful of, getting the illnesses, the cancers, fear of the terrorists. Everything's about fear on this planet. When we don't buy into that, and we allow ourselves to focus on something much of a higher frequency, we're actually not affected by it.
No, we're
and
not.
That is, it really isn't that hard, really. It's do you buy into it or don't you buy into it? And they want you to buy into it so that you're kept at that level of frequency. And when people are fearful, they stay in the box. They don't then realize that they have the potential to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. And this gentleman I was speaking to you about a little while ago, well, before we actually officially started the show today, this gentleman who is doing this work, his name is Daniel Teague, and he is very new to the scene. Well, just to give you a brief background about this guy, when he was 18, he was born in 1974. And when he was 18 or so, he was in a car accident, and it was a very bad car accident. And he doesn't remember anything, really. He's missing a week of time. Well, apparently he's a soul walk-in, And the original soul of that body departed at the age of 18, and he came in. He works with individuals in healing their chakras and getting them open and spinning again, and basically just helping people and encouraging them to be the change they wish to see. He does energetic healing. He doesn't need to be in your vicinity. He does not need to lay hands on you. But he did some work on Lady La and I yesterday. We were on Skype with him for 3 hours and 44 minutes, and it was like we were reconnecting with a long-lost brother from a long time ago. And we're going to be doing some shows with him, and I'll turn you on to those when we're going to be doing our first one next week, as a matter of fact. But he is actually out there and he's trying to wake people up to their full potential, but he's also offering at the same time these wonderful healings he's doing for people. He is legit. He's straight up. La and I were witnessing all sorts of different colored flares on his end when he was doing these cleansings. He doesn't need any information about anyone, right? He would rather not know about what they're going through, but just like that, like clockwork, he can figure out what's going on, why it's going on, and fix it. Immediately fix it. But after he fixes these things, he says it takes about a week or so for the changes to fully take effect. So this guy is brilliant, and I do feel that you're going to want to be talking to him because he has some extraordinary experiences as well that deal with otherworldly contact and things of that sort also. But, these people are popping up all over the place. I feel very humbled, honored, and also privileged, to say the least, that I'm connecting with folks like yourselves, really. And it's just, it's all up from here, right? Because energetically, La and I had hit rock bottom. Her eldest son just moved out of the house recently, a couple days ago, and all sorts of feelings and things of that sort were getting churned up. And it's just, he did some healing on us yesterday. And it's just like, wow, we've been in a state of bliss. But unfortunately, these healings, folks, do come with a little bit of pain, unfortunately, physical pain, because it's like when you have anything worked on energetically that's being focused upon, you are going to feel pain in that area, and it will subside and it will heal, and you'll be able to move on with life. But what are you feeling right now, Mary, with, it seeming that in this time of global austerity, as the so-called powers call it, that many healers and sensitives are being hit and or targeted very hard right now with survival issues regarding finances and just trying to feed themselves day to day, like La and I, unfortunately. Could you offer some advice and or insight into those arenas as we're all facing these issues on a daily basis, when in reality there is plenty of abundance for all on this planet at present?
I think we're still in, we've still got a foot in the third dimensional camp, and it's all about, money. And what's interesting, and it never made sense to me when I used to think about that some of the most beautiful, talented, wonderful people on this planet now are in very dire straits financially, one way or another. They're barely able to, put food on the table. And I say this doesn't make any sense to me, that the ones that are doing the most for the planet are struggling, to pay their bills and get a bit of food and whatever. And the sense was that this is, still because of where we are at this moment in time. My sense, it's very hard for them. It's hard financially. It's also hard physically because they're so sensitive. They're tapping into the energies of the planet. The pain that many people are experiencing if they're empathic, that, they really struggle. Many of them get very depressed because of, what they're picking up because they're so highly sensitive. There are those that you say, I'm finding it too painful even to be here. Yep. And I just feel it's a little bit like the dark night of the soul. We're waiting for the dawn. And it's about hanging in there, because I really do feel that we've got to go through the birthing of the new paradigm, where I'm beginning to wonder whether, in fact, money will actually be completely obsolete.
Right.
Because once we are at a point of awareness, then we manifest.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We think about where we'd like to go and we teleport.
Exactly. This is the point, that this is just the old paradigm still trying to contain this new awareness, contain what you're capable of and what you can manifest and how you manifest. All of those things are just on the cusp. We're on the cusp of that now. We've still got one foot in both camps. So it really is just making the best you can out of it, at this moment in time, just knowing that things are going to change. And for a while, we're going to have a bit of a rough time while we have to clear the decks. But I always, I'm the eternal optimist, and I've always said, that I wouldn't have come to this planet. In fact, I would have completely refused to come to this planet, work as hard as I've been doing, just the same way you're working, Roger, making do and doing the best you can. If it was for a waste of time, I would have told them to go and find somebody else to come and volunteer, because I wasn't going to do it, because I'm not very good at doing things for a waste of time.
Right.
So in that sense, I expect things to change, and I expect to be here to see them. Otherwise, I'm not going to be a very happy soul when I vacate this planet. I can tell you that for
Yeah. Now, can you see yourself actually thinking about going, say, to the States and visiting the Grand Canyon, and, nothing's faster than the speed of thought, a little, because the portals are within us, aren't they? The portals are in us, and they're just trying to create. They're trying to create the current paradigm is trying to create everything that's already within us with technology, because they cannot raise their vibration to the frequency they need to do these things themselves, which is why they're doing things artificially. Yes?
That's my understanding, is they want us to believe it's only technology that will allow us to do this, when in fact we have all those abilities actually within our DNA. And it's interesting that it's come out recently. I know Bob Dean, for example, the grandfather of ufology, was saying when he finally admitted, he's in his 80s, as you know, in his early 80s now, finally admitted he'd been up on craft, and they had actually shown him that our DNA was a mix of at least 12 species of extraterrestrial. And he was also shown our future, and he said it's glorious. And that was how, and that I've always found him to be one of the most credible individuals speaking about this, and one with the highest integrity. And when he said that, it was like, that absolutely feels right to me. And I think that, we have seen this with our avatars. We've seen this with some of the amazing beings that have come to this planet as spiritual teachers, and what they were able to do, from healing to walking on water to bilocation, all those kinds of things they were doing. And some of the mystics have done this. And we know that there are those, that have, the Tibetans, monks, for example, have done incredible things. And, they know it's innate within us. It's just that we haven't yet realized how amazing every single one of us actually is. And if you look on the internet, you will see evidence of this with some of the children. They call them in India, they call them psychic children. Mm-hmm. And there was a program where these 10 and 12-year-olds were showing how they could read a book blindfolded, and also reading a book where they were literally flicking the pages for a minute or two, and you could ask them any point in that book what was written there, and they could tell you. There was a child of 10 or 11 blindfolded that was given a Rubik's Cube, and within 2 minutes he'd done it blindfolded. I mean, these are some of the abilities these children have that are, they're seeing them as psychic kids, right. But actually they're a lot more than that. And it's there. It's on these TV programs.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's been happening for a very long time. It has. Let me digress here a bit. The part where you were speaking about, oh geez, and I lose it again. I hate it when I do that. I have so much going on up here mentally, but it was about the abilities of people, right? We were speaking about the,
Yes.
but yeah,
Yes.
there was something before that. Anyway, all right, let's just move on. It was, oh, it'll come back to me. Damn it, Mary, I hate it when this happens. I'm going to have to edit audio now. Anyway.
Well, I don't think people mind if
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, I know that I'm thinking of lots of things when you're talking about things. I'm also thinking, well, I can bring that in, or
Yeah.
I can mention that. So
Oh.
I think that's, go on, you've got it now.
I got it. Yeah, I got it. Bob Dean. All right, that's what I was going to
Yes.
digress to. Bob Dean. I had the privilege to meet him in 2011 at the Awake and Aware conference in Irvine, California. That was put on by Project Camelot when Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan were still, they were kind of splitting up, parting ways and doing their own thing, but they were both there in attendance, and Bob Dean happened to be there, and we were sitting in the front row. We got to share a drink or two with Bob, and very, very charismatic gentleman he is. But during his, and it's on YouTube, the speech he gave, but he was looking right at us, Mary, mostly the whole time on the front row. He was standing looking at us. We were sitting diagonally from the stage, and he was standing staring at us. Basically, I felt like it was the handing over of the torch. He was speaking about the old guard and the new guard, and we are the new guard, right? But it was just like, wow. I still feel the chills going up and down my spine from the speech he gave, right? But the thing is here is it's happening. It's now, and I could not be happier. But the thing is here is getting back to the austerity and things of that sort. You know, Lady Law and I have been working many years separately, but then, but now together. We have been working and putting what we can out there, good into the world with our specific talents and traits, right? But unfortunately, there isn't any freaking balance, Mary. There is no energetic balance right now, right? To where things are coming back, and our friend John Storm's like, well, it's just money in the karma bank, it'll come back eventually. And I'm being pinged right now. Yeah, it is, but we could so use it right now. We have barely anything in the cupboards ourselves, and our clothes are becoming tatty, holes in the socks, underwear, you name it, stitching up clothing. It's like we might as well be living homeless. Now, I'm not putting that intent out there, mind you, but it's just how it feels, living from hand to mouth and diving out of freaking dumpsters to eat. And I've been there. I had to do that, unfortunately, many years ago. And I know I know what it's like. And it's just not any place we want to be, And I find it just really pisses me off that we have so much abundance on this planet, but you have these usurpers, these middlemen come in, take what the planet's already giving freely, repackaging it and selling it to you. They're sucking up water in California and from the Great Lakes and bottling it and selling it to people for £2, all right, a bottle. It's ridiculous. There has to be a stopping point to where there has to be just a point where it all stops and reverses. I feel we are very close to that time, but I also feel that the powers that are still messing with timelines and preventing things from happening and setting things back. But how do they feel that they're going to be able to stop the inevitable? They can manipulate things till the cows come home, all right? And I know many of you out there are going to be listening to this show. You're delaying the inevitable. What makes you think you can stop it? There's no stopping what can't be stopped. So I'm gonna shut up, Mary. I'm gonna shut up here. All right, now go ahead.
I think being human beings and being the way that human beings are, we're inclined to cling on to whatever it is we still feel, comfortable with, no matter how dysfunctional it is or how it's not working. We usually need to be with our back against the wall before we let go. And I think this is what's exactly going on with, the whole banking system, with the way things are. It's falling apart at the seams. Mm-hmm. We're getting that, everyone looking at what's happening in Greece, for example. They're trying to screw Greece to the point where it's saying you can't screw us anymore. So what are you going to do about it? What can they do? They can't divorce Greece. There comes a point where the greed gets to ridiculous lengths where, they just can't screw anyone anymore. And this is where I think it's got to now. We've got it in all the countries that, if the truth was known, that they're all going, people can't keep their houses. It's got to the point where it's got ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And yet it's very hard for those in power to realize they've pushed people beyond the limit. And this is what is just natural human nature, isn't it? I'm not going to see my beautiful party end. And I think that's what's quite hilarious, is that you can't stop this. It's everywhere now, and more people are aware of what's happening. There are lots of people feeling the lack of integrity, the lack of honesty, the corruption, and fed up to the back teeth of it. All of this is creating a wave. And when that wave gets big enough, I think that's when it's all going to fall apart. And there will be, for a while, a lot of people struggling, because if you're in the cities particularly, when things start to fall apart, what are you going to do? The only ones that are going to have any chance really are the ones in the country areas. And that's why I think that's been the big push for people who've had experiences wanting to go more rural and wanting to go out of the cities and what have you, because at least there you can grow your own stuff. You're not reliant on the whole infrastructure that you are in the cities and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think this is why they've been saying, get out, go and find your own little spot and look after yourself, grow your own stuff and what have you. Because I do think for a while it's going to be quite rough. How we're going to manage that, I'm not really sure, but we've all agreed to come down here for it. So we must know that on some level it's what we've chosen to do, and it's part of the experience, isn't it? Yeah, but we do these things, don't we? We jump off the cliff and think, oh, maybe that wasn't so clever after all. But I know many of the starseeds have said to me, I've come to this planet and it seemed like a good idea at the time. And now I just want to leave because it's much harder than I thought it was going to be, but we've come here for an experience.
Oh, yeah.
And the wonderful, but the wonderful thing is, whether we decide to stay or go, either way, you're still you, and you're still the soul that is eternal. So if you decide to bail from this container, you're going to get another container whenever you want it, at whatever point your soul wishes to grow again, or you work through it and you work with your human experience, and you find what it is that you've come here for, because that's really what we're all trying to work out, isn't it? Why have I come to this planet? What does it all mean? And some of them are saying, and when can I actually leave? Because it's getting a bit rough down here.
Yeah, because we're a glutton for punishment is what's going on there, eh? Oh, my God, Mary, seriously. Oh, I have to tell everyone, and yourself, Mary, about a prophetic dream Lady Lahila had just recently, and this is very ominous, folks. She dreamt that her eldest son, she was helping him move to this very well-to-do estate somewhere here in England. And they were giving a tour of this estate, and she just happened to be there while he was moving in. So she went to go check out this big hoop-to-do, if you will. And there was a lady standing there as a tour guide, giving a tour, sitting there blabbering and just blabbing at the gums about a bunch of talking head nonsense. All of a sudden, this beautiful, beautiful black stallion comes charging along, runs right past her, and jumps into the river that's part of this estate. and jumps into the river and basically can't get out of it and drowns. And she's trying to get the attention of the conductor of this little tour, and saying she's trying to bring attention to this horse that just jumped into the river and is drowning right in front of everyone, while this mouthpiece is standing in front of everyone speaking as if everything's okay, which is very much like what we're seeing taking place on this planet now. And well, we did further research, and it turns out that it's Lloyd's Bank here in the UK that their symbol is the black stallion.
It is.
Yeah. So they're running and jumping right into the river and taking themselves down. I never thought I'd see the day to where they would start doing this to themselves, but it's just like evil begets evil, doesn't it?
Oh, I think at the end of the day, you know, the one thing in the universe is about balance. And when things get tipped too much to one side, then things have to, you know, come into balance again. And that's what we've been seeing for a long time. It's all been weighted in one particular way. And now it's time for that to be righted now. And we all know that what we give out energetically is what we get back. You know, there's no escape from those kinds of learnings. So, you know, this is what I'm seeing on this planet now. This is how when I get out of the drama of it and I look at how everything is going, I think that, you know, there's a lot of heads in the sand, particularly those that are having what we would call the good life. But there's always a price to pay, isn't there? You know, have what you want, says the Lord, but be ready to pay for it. And they will be paying for it, you know?
Yeah,
they will.
I might sit in on a couple of episodes for that on TV. But, you know, moving on here, really, have any of your clients spoken about anything having to do with Middle Earth and or any of the oceanic otherworlder bases set up throughout this particular planet?
Oh, there's quite a bit of information about, you know, particularly two of the species, the greys and the reptilians, having bases underground, particularly. And they say they've been there, particularly the reptilians have been there before humans were created. And so they're inclined to think it's their planet, not Homo sapiens that was a created species. So, you know, that has certainly been some of the information coming up from some individuals. And of course we have those that identify as hybrids that will say, you know, they've got part human DNA, part reptilian or part grey, and they really identify more with their less human side, and are quite and that I found quite fascinating, is that they would see their human side as not being so attractive, but maybe their reptilian side or their grey side being a lot more comfortable for them, which I find quite interesting. So, you know, we've got everything from, as you say, walk-ins to hybrids of dual consciousness, where those see themselves as, you know, part star being, part human. The hybrids of the reptilian or the greys, for example, as hybrids. Some, like Simon Parkes, the councillor in Britain, the Labour councillor, who talks about being part mantid, part human, part reptilian. I've got a young 8-year-old here, not far from where I live, who basically says that his family is the mantid beings, for example. So he's seeing himself as a hybrid human as well. So you've got, say, with that, you've got the walk-ins, you've got true extraterrestrials that are walking this planet, that are very humanoid, and you wouldn't know the difference if you met them on the street, because they would look just like you and me, for example. So we've got a lot of those that are coming in from the other dimensions that are coming in and out, and sometimes will appear in human form or whatever. So given all of that, certainly underground, as you know, getting back to that, there may be other species there as well, as far as I know, but certainly the greys and the reptilians are the ones that I mostly hear about.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I've seen other worldly humanoid beings to where they look just like us, except for the color of their skin, of course. But you know, um, we have about 30 minutes left, and if we go over that, is that okay? Because I have a few things here that I need to bring out and I need to ask you about. And, you know, I have a little story of my own to share, but Lady Law here, she gave me some questions to get your take on her experiences. Now, we have to keep in mind here that our experiences took place before she and I got together as a couple, all right? But is that okay with you if we do run over? We'll try to keep it within the 30 minutes, but yeah, all right. Well, you know, let's start with hers first because, yeah, no, the first experience with Law here, she was taking a break in Wales, I guess, and she was with a friend who was an exorcist and a medium. They were out in the countryside mid-afternoon. They felt like they walked through some sort of veil, possibly the generated field of a cloaked, crashed ship, many call a UFO, of course, you know. Although they didn't see it, they felt the presence. Actually, it was plural, presences of other sentient beings. Her and her friend went over to offer assistance, opening up a channel to connect to their people, to bring help to those stranded on the ground. Now, they couldn't see anything going on. They just felt what was going on, right? This took some time, a good couple of hours. Help did come. They couldn't see them, but could definitely feel them. The energy in the field shifted and left and felt normal, I guess. As whatever took place there was now all right because they received the assistance they needed. As they stepped back, they felt like they returned to quote-unquote normal time, right? But all of a sudden, there was a mist as they stepped out of this veil, and a white, long-haired adult Persian cat with green eyes materialized, coming out of the mist, and it wrapped around Lady Law's legs to be stroked, right? It then walked back into the mist, and they both saw it dematerialize into nothing. She questioned the meaning of this with her friend. He then physically received a message, psychically received a message, folks, that, that this message was saying, thank you for your assistance, and to let them know, La and him, that the white Persian cat was a sign to let them know that everything was going to be fine. Now, having experienced the cat with another close encounter she had, she's wondering if other people you have spoken with have anything or have had anything similar take place with them.
Well, in different scenarios, there are similarities. My immediate thinking around that is obviously, many of these different coming interdimensionally, you can have interactions with them, which plainly happened there, and there was the assistance. Interestingly, with the cat, sometimes the screen or the screen memory is that we will see something familiar rather than actually see what the beings may be, and they may present in various forms, for example, which, that was something that I found intriguing. And perhaps if, they went into their subconscious and asked about the cat, they would actually maybe get more information about what that was all about as well. But it sounds to me like a classic encounter. The fog, the sense that they were interacting. I would suggest that the reason they were seeing that, being allowed to see it, is because there's something very much in why they were showing themselves was because they were related in some way to them in terms of perhaps star family. because often that is another way of that they show themselves to family and reconnect with them. And there may have been actually more going on than they realize. So I would say, you know, what did you feel about, you know, the beings, or what was the sense that you got with them? Because often that's a real clue. If they felt familiar or they felt a really good feeling about them, often it's family coming to say hello as well.
Right. Yeah. I guess they felt it was they were in distress, that they had broken down. They weren't totally, you know, their craft wasn't decimated by any means, because it was still producing a field, right? But yeah, she's had another experience with that as well, and I cannot see it here, but you know, I had an experience back in 2010. I don't remember if I brought this up on the last show that we did together, but all right, so it's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm sitting in my local watering hole, and it was called the Rendezvous in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. And I just felt that something special was going to take place that day. I'm sitting there with my back facing north and my front south, and the door, the entrance, was off to my right. And I felt the presence of someone that was not local to the area, let's put it that way. We're talking, you know, Redneckville, USA, but just north, you know, northern Redneckville. Anyway, this person walks in. Now, when they walk in, they're wearing like corduroy bell bottoms, all right, straight out of the freaking 70s. The shoes he was wearing were as well. He was wearing an old bomber jacket. And it was very old, because the wool around the collar looked like it had been, you know, falling away and being eaten away by moths. And on the back of this jacket was a silk screen of the Knights Templar emblem that was all faded and almost washed out, the red cross with the white four corners. And he comes walking in, and I'm like, get a load of this guy. He had longer hair and everything. And the first thing I got was he like reanimated a corpse or something. And I'll tell you why here in a minute. Wow. Yeah, he comes walking in, and he goes and sits opposite of me. And I'm watching everything he's doing, and I'm just giggling to myself, right? And he closes his eyes. And I knew what he was doing. He was scanning the room to see who might have a little something about them, you know, than your typical muggle, I guess. But anyway, I sent to him telepathically, yeah, I'm here. You know I'm here. I'm sitting right across from you. And all of a sudden he opens up his eyes, and he's looking directly at me, and he gives me the smirk like, you're a tinky cheek, yeah? So he turns around, starts hobnobbing with the people and, you know, around him, and grabs a couple of beers and being sociable. He had never been to this little town before. That I do know. And anyway, as time went on, he and I struck up a conversation. And as we were speaking, we were talking about the politics of this planet, how they're BS, how the mathematics taught on this planet are BS as well. And he was saying, right on. He says, you're very correct. He says, it's all BS down here. And basically what was going on was, the reason why he was there was that he was part of a bet with someone where he came from, that he would come down to the planet and try to see if there was anyone, you know, in just a rinky-dink little ho-dump town like Grantsburg, Wisconsin, if there was anyone who thought beyond what they saw in front of their face. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. But as we're sitting there talking, he's pulling these ticks off of him like he had been out in the backwoods somewhere. And he's like, there are many things on this planet that suck. And he says, these blood-sucking little insects are one of them. And he's throwing them in the ashtray and using his lighter and burning them right there in the ashtray. He says, these are good for nothing. And I'm sitting there cracking up, but we're talking about symbols. Well, first and foremost, I told him I had to go to the loo, and so I would be right back. I go do my business, and I wash my hands, and I'm blow drying them, right? And it was a sensor, one of these infrared sensor, motion sensor things, where it activated. It was actually a towel dispenser, yeah. And so I'm watching out of the corner of my eye, and he's watching me, my movements, out of the corner of his eye, right, to see what I'm doing to make these towels dispense. And he watches me wave my hand in front of this thing, and the towel dispenses, right? And I'm cracking up on the inside. He's thinking I'm not seeing this. So he, I grabbed the towel, dry my hands. He goes up there, waves his hand in front of this thing, exact movement that I did, held his hand the same way, his fingers, towel dispensed, and I just cracked up, and I'm like, right on. All right, we have someone who is definitely from not around here. I don't feel so alone anymore, yeah? So, yeah, we go back to having our discussion. And he asked me, toward the end of the night, because, I bought shots of tequila and we were just hooping it up, having a good time. But he asked me 3 important questions. And I remember one of them was about what is true sacrifice? What is true sacrifice to you? And I said, well, before I give the answer of, what I said to him, after I answered these 3 questions, the power went out. Boom. The power went out all 3 times after I answered these. But the answer to, what is sacrifice? What is self-sacrifice? I said the ultimate sacrifice is, and giving it from your heart is to lay your life down for someone else on this planet. Right? And he just looked at me. And he's just like, right on. And all of a sudden, the power went out. And everyone around us is going, what the hell's going on with the power? I knew what was going on with the power. This conversation was being monitored, right? And I'm sharing cigarettes with this guy and everything. And he says, well, it's time for me to go. He had rode in on a chopper, right? Sounded like an old 70s style chopper. And he's getting ready to leave, and I go to hand him another cigarette, one for the road, and he puts his hand up, and I said, all right. I said, can you answer me a question as you're leaving? And he's like, what's that? As he's standing up against the door. And I said, well, will I be seeing you again anytime soon? And he looked at me, and he closed his eyes for about 5-10 seconds, and he opened them and looked at me and kind of smirked and says, not for a long time. And I'm like, all right then, until we meet again, have a good one. And he walked out the door, fired up his bike, and that was the last time I saw him. But this guy, it was like he reanimated a corpse. It was crazy. It was like right out of the 70s, Have you ever heard of stories like this before?
I've heard about what they say is that we get visitors to the planet, and sometimes they're not always dressed quite appropriately, or they act very oddly because they're plainly visitors and they're not used to the way things are done. And your everything you've suggested there, brings that to mind, that he had to watch you. He was dressed inappropriately. They hadn't quite got it right, but was doing his best to fit in and all the rest of it. And I think because you're highly intuitive, you sensed that from the moment, not only because he wasn't so appropriately dressed, but there was obviously something else that you picked up on, that that you knew that this was more than what you were seeing.
Yeah, exactly. There was a part of the story that I forgot to put in. It's Memorial Day, and he's walking around, and he's looking all these crucifixes and these crosses put up in honor and memory of our military. But I'm also wearing a black T-shirt, right? And it has a glow-in-the-dark skull on it, right? Because I'm just all rock and roll, right? And anyway, he's asking me. He says, "In symbols, the symbols on this planet, as we were discussing the fake politics and everything." What the hell's up with these symbols? What's up with these crucifixes, these crosses? And I said, well, I answered him. I said, they're for, remembering those who have fell in battle. Unfortunately, those battles have been all contrived, and these people died fighting rich man's wars down here. I said, but these are in remembrance to them, and he's like, all right. He says, well, what about that skull on your t-shirt? And I said, well, the skull on my t-shirt just means I'm pretty much anti-social. No, I'm anti-establishment, really, and he's cracking up. He's like, all right, cool, whatever. But it was very strange because all of the friends around, my earth friends, really earthlings, if you will, they were falling away. They were, as we were speaking, we were having this conversation, and they were falling back into the background. Like, we were speaking above their heads, so they just kind of like disappeared, like we weren't even there. It was very strange. Even the barkeep, he was an older fellow by the name of Richard, and he's like, what the hell's going on with the electricity? But he's not even looking at myself and this guy like we're in his immediate reality bubble. It was like we were outside all that. It was crazy.
So it was almost like you were in a different frequency from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Which, if he is an off-worlder, maybe he's able to create that in some way through his own frequency. I mean, I really don't know, but it certainly sounds like he was an off-worlder coming to planet Earth to have a little look round and have a bit of fun, which they say they do. This is one of the planets to come and visit. So I'm not terribly surprised, but I have certainly a couple of times seen a couple of individuals which I just felt just weren't right. And I can't even tell you why. One was in just the post office, and I remember looking at her and I just thought, there's something that's not right with you, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And once at a conference, I was seeing this woman from the back. I wish to goodness I'd taken a picture of her from the front, but she behaved just, people who behave oddly because they're just a bit odd.
Yeah.
But there are people, you know what I mean? You just know they're just a bit different. But this one was strange. There was a high strangeness about, and I think that when you can allow yourself to tune in, you can actually tell there's just something energetically different about them. Apart from maybe looking more unusual, as you say, you had quite a few indicators there that obviously part of you also knew that there was more to it than just dressing oddly. Yeah. There was a lot of other things with it that went with it. Yeah. So, I would say you probably had you connected with an off-world visitor, and he probably had a lot of fun with you, But more than that, I don't know. I mean, I would ask you what you sensed and felt is probably the most accurate of all, because, part of you did already sense that there was something else going on, which nobody else was picking up on.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was my entire being, my entire core knew that he was not from here, just the garb he was wearing when he walked in, and I was cracking up. I'm like, get a load of you. When I walk into a place and La's like, Raj, you got a big presence about you. And I'm like, well, there's really nothing I can do about it. Do you think cutting my hair or shaving my face is going to make a difference? And she just said, no, it's in your energetics. And I'm like, well, all right. So that's exactly, it was in this guy's energetics too, right? Yeah. He was definitely from out there. When he told me he was on a bet to find out if there was anyone down here that was just, smart enough to see beyond whatever is placed right in front of them. But I think he won his bet. Let's put it that way. And I really hope I see that guy again, because he was actually really cool. He had dark hair. Yeah, he had dark, longer hair, and his eyes were very dark brown. They were darker than mine. He almost looked like he was Romanian, actually. But he was taller. He was about 6'4" or so, and he had a slender build, right? And this jacket looked like he just went and picked it up in an antique shop. So, yeah, it was very, very cool, and I'm looking forward to having more experiences like that. But this time I would just like him to come down and say, hey, Raj, how you doing? We've been monitoring you, and we feel you're ready to take a ride on a ship. You ready? And I'm like, let's do it, buddy. I've had dreams about teleporting, Mary. Teleporting, Mary. Yeah. But I've had dreams about teleporting, and also what it felt like. I've also had dreams about flying. All right. Recently, I just get up, jump up, and fly. Now, would you say that those kind of abilities we're going to be seeing those in our lifetimes here on this planet?
I'd like to think so, because there's no doubt that many people seem to have those kinds of dreams. And I think when they go off world, either astrally or physically, a lot of the kids are certainly taught about levitation. As one 7-year-old told me, she went to Pluto and taught how to levitate things because the gravity was less there. That's how she explained it. I think they're taught all of those kinds of things, including I think we are able to actually levitate. And so, when you get the kids saying, I think I can fly, I think in other states, that's absolutely possible. It's, again, we're programmed into thinking so much we can't do, and so much is impossible, which is just another way of stopping us from accessing what is possible. But I think you've probably done all of that when you've gone on the spacecraft and what have you. I'm including many of them know that they've actually piloted craft.
Right.
They say, I'm sure I know how to pilot craft, and I've seen the star systems and used my consciousness to do it. So I think they're probably trained, when they actually go on board craft in these, what I call these space schools that the children talk about, where they're taught to use their consciousness and their mind in all sorts of different ways, including levitation and all these other things, from bilocation to whatever. I think it's all possible.
All right. Now, while you're talking, we're having interference coming in, and I think that's them. It's coming in on your side, from your side, and I think that's telling me. I don't know if I'm coming in clear to you, but it just come on here toward the end of the show. It's being broadcast over the top of your vocal signal, and I can hear it. I'll send you a link to the show so you can hear what I'm hearing. But it's like they're letting us know that they are listening to this conversation right now.
Oh, look, I've had a lot of those odd things happen. I was even talking to my webmaster, and three times now, after a certain length of time, we will get this kind of white noise coming in, and it sounds really, really odd. And it only happens with her when we start to talk about some of this stuff. So it doesn't surprise me, Roger, at all.
Yeah, well, it's very weird, and you're echoing as well when you're speaking, so it's very strange. Am I sounding okay to you then?
You're actually sounding fine. They're coming a bit late because we're almost done anyway now. So whatever they do, they can't do a lot about what we've already talked about.
Right. No, they can't. But this is definite interference, and well. Okay, so, I guess we'll go ahead and just kind of close this out a little bit then. And, I have to say, first and foremost, thank you very much for returning to the show. And we definitely have to hook up on Facebook. I will private message you, Lady Lahila's information, and have her get a hold of you with some of her questions on the new Facebook page you've created. Also, before I get your vital stats on the air here about the new page and what it's called, we have recently friended Peter Maxwell Slattery and And we would really like to connect with them soon. We know they're very busy, but we would like to connect with them soon. And if you can put your feelers out there and speak to Peter, I would love to have him on the show, if you wouldn't mind. And Sylver as well, because La and I have saw ourselves speaking to them, as a matter of fact, on video. So we've had a vision of that already. But the thing is we all are coming together now. This is a time we're all waking up to our true purposes, and we're coming together. We're seeking each other out, and that's how we do it. It's strength in numbers right now, because that's what we need. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Okay. Well, with that then, because your audio is crazy, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh when you hear it. But anyway, what is the name of the new page? You said it's under the.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it's actually obviously facebook.com/ACERN.com.au.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you. Do you have any other websites you're working on, free or anything like that? Do you have a website for there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I've scribbled all over it because I do things like that. As I'm busy chatting to you,
Yeah.
I'm scribbling away. Yeah, we're getting actually a new website. The one that you can have at the moment is in fact just www.experiencer, capital letters.org. So that's what is the new domain name, experiencer.org.
All right. Very good. Well, I'll be joining up at that site sometime this weekend as well. Let's see here. Thank you. And what words of encouragement do you have for those still trying to speak about and or come to terms with their experiences?
I would say the more you understand, the more you can integrate and be peaceful about your experiences. The more you shut them out or try to deny them, actually all that does is cause you more conflict. Even if the rest of the family doesn't want to hear or your partner doesn't want to hear, there are plenty of people out there now that are open enough to listening. And not only with ACERN, but also with Free, we have a buddy network. So you can buddy up with others that are, opening up and who are working with their encounters, because this is where we're going. We're becoming part of a galactic community, and the more that we move forward into that, and the more we accept ourselves with our multidimensional connections to our star family, the more likely you are to be ultimately a lot more empowered and a lot more peaceful, even if some of the family still don't get it, or some of your relatives and friends don't get it. Mm-hmm. There is plenty of people out there now that do. So it really is power to you for, standing up. And I call it coming out of the space closet. So it's about time that we did that.
Yeah, right on. And yeah, it's about, also owning who you are as a sentient being and basically finding your tribe, as it were. Yeah, finding your soul family is down here.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Now, what do you have going on in the coming future to let folks know about, such as being here in the UK in October of this year? And could you please give out your email and any other website addresses for those first-timers who may wish to contact you?
Well, I'm going to be at the Leeds University Exopolitics UK. Anthony Beckett is the organizer of that. And so I will be in Leeds over that weekend speaking about the latest of my research, including a scientist who's coming out, and hopefully doing a workshop there if I can as well for experiences. That's the plan. And I think it's the 17th and 18th of October in Leeds. Also, in terms of my website, acern.com.au, or just Google Mary Rodwell and up will come my website. I've also got a free subscription to a newsletter that will keep you up to date. We also, as I say, have a buddy system as well. So and my email is on my website. So you can see it all there, as well as the Facebook as well, which is the one that I've just given out. So plenty of ways to contact me and find information and get some support.
Right on, Mary. Thank you so much. And I have to say that your audio has gone back to normal. They faded and they pulled away from the signal. Let's put it that way. So I don't know if it was someone trying to interfere with us or if they're actually coming in at the end here saying, hey, yeah, we're listening. You know what I mean? We're listening, and they're fooling around up there. I don't know.
Absolutely. But, who knows? We get a lot of this going on. It just adds to the richness of this planet. Yeah. And I'm just looking at a lovely little card here that, we were talking about what they say about this planet. And it's actually got on it, beam me up, Scotty, because there's no intelligent life down here. So with that, I'm hoping that ultimately they'll see there is intelligent life. Yeah. Even though at the moment we're still trying to find out how intelligent we are. Yeah,
we're still exploring that, aren't we? But we need a little more to go on here because it's like my brain is starving for more information. I suck it up like a sponge. I always have. Astrology, anything having to do with the paranormal, above normal. Anything otherworldly, total anarchy too. No, I'm kidding. kind of, sort of. But anyway, I'm going to stop at that. And Mary, say thank you very much. Please put the word out to Mr. Slattery and Solretta.
I will.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I will have this show up as soon as possible. I don't think I'm going to do any editing with this show, though I should, to be a little more professional. But you know what? Screw it, because it's my show and I can do whatever the hell I want with it, right? And people get to hear the screw-ups live anyway. So anyway, thank you, Mary, so much. And let's keep in touch. And if there's any information you need to get my way to assist in getting out to the public, please let me know. I'm here.
Thank you very much, Roger. And I will definitely make sure that Pete and Sol get in touch with you.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Mary. And you have a good remainder of your evening.
Thank you, and have a good day for you. And we'll talk again before too long, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. All right, thank you very much. And hasta la bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.